If you think the meta after the B patch is still horrible and there are no options to play, then fear not. I will show you 10 comps you can play right now and perform with it, because I'm also going to show you the best openers you want to play to snowball your early game. I'm not going to stop here, because I will also in this video give you all the augments that you should instantly pick when you see them. Welcome to the patch 3018b full guide. By the way, for those who don't know me, I'm Felipe. I've been challenger multiple times. This is set 9 when I finished rank 65 in EU West, and I'm here to show you exactly how challengers and best players of the world play. So let's start with the 10 comps that you want to play. I'm going to start with the strongest one, the one you want to play most of the time if you have the starter, but I will also give you many alternatives based on augments or emblems and things like this. So first of all, Goldailer. Obviously this is the strongest comp right now. This is the comp you have to go if you have 2 Cho'Gath and 1 Renekton on your start. That's enough for you to think about playing this comp. That's also a comp you want to play if you have endurance training, martyr or bruiser crest, because this will help you to cap your board much easier. The way you want to play is very simple. If you have a start with Cho'Gath, you want to make sure you have defensive item on him. Redemption and Declo are just insanely good, and Bramble Vest to make sure like he can still tank some heavy crit and AD comps. But basically that's it. You want to play with Malzahar as your carry. You can make a 3-star Malzahar, but as soon as you have Silco 2 and you start reaching the very late game and you start to have potentially Belvet and all of that, you can remove Malzahar. You just play Silco because Malzahar will downscale hard. Another thing I want to say about this comp is you can have many good support and own items. So thinking of support items, if we can see there, the best one obviously is Virtue of the Martyr. It's just like a redemption but on everyone. So it's kind of broken. Honestly, if you have this comp with this support item, I think you just win simply. That's it. Another one that's really nice, it's not Aegis of the Legend, is Randuin, because since you have so much HP and not just Cho'Gath everyone, giving them more defenses is just like how you increase drastically the effective HP of your whole team. So it's really nice to have. Then after, obviously, if you go for the artifact, the one that's overly broken, like if you have it, just like Virtue of the Martyr, you just instantly win, is Anima Visage. Obviously on Cho'Gath, it makes him heal so much, it's disgusting. If you are facing someone like this, your only hope to win is to have Emerniga with triple Mechano Swarm, so you can burn this amount of HP, and you will see that Mechano Swarm is going to be your main DPS because they will just burn so much. Next comp that's really popular and kind of too contested as well. Actually, what's really contested is Silco and Nasus, probably the most 2 contested units right now. But for sure, like this comp is extremely strong. The way you want to play it is obviously to have Nasus with 3 items. It's really important that Nasus is the one who ascends with the Shurima, because he will buy an extra 10 seconds potentially, or maybe 5 seconds, let's say, thanks to this. So you really want to last as long as possible. That's the only way you can if you want to beat, of course, Joe Biden. So you need to have a frontline that just lasts as long as a Cho'Gath. And then after you have Silco, the second unit you want to build as much as possible with Blue Buff, Morello and Gunblade. Before the pay patch, Azir was better, but he got nerfed, so now Silco is actually better than Azir. But whatever, you just play with whatever items you have. If you have Azir 2 before Silco, and then after you have kind of attack speed AP items, you put on Azir. But sometimes you don't choose, but if you can choose, you play Silco. The augments you really want to have, augments that gives you more items, so Oran, Ezreal are actually nice. And then after, you want to have one of these 3 if possible. Honestly, World of Forge is just way too strong, so if you see it, it's almost an instant pick, but we will see that later with the augments. Unified Resistance, really nice because it's easy for you to activate. You activate it naturally and you have more defenses, so your team lasts longer. So Silco and Azir have more time to scale and deal the damage over time. Whenever you have Gift from the Fallen and you pick it, it's very rarely a bad choice. The next one that I see is getting more and more trendy, at least in GM and a Grandmaster and Challenger Elo, is for challengers. I think this comp is getting more and more understood by players right now, and that's why more and more players are willing to play because they know how to play it. So one thing I want to say about this comp is like, unless you have Challenger emblems, it's a bait to stay as 6 Challenger. Instead, what you want to do is you can play 6 Challengers, let's say as stage 4, but stage 5, stage 6, you need to drop 2 Challengers because you don't want to have Samira and Irelia on your board because they're kind of useless in the late game. Instead, you want to build and put very relevant units. I'm thinking, of course, of Jarvan, of Nasus, Aatrox. So One thing I like about this comp, since Fiora needs only 2 items to be effective, thanks to Demacia should get the 3rd item, that's really nice. You can have a little less items and still be efficient with this comp. So your main carry is Keisa. Remember about Keisa Yasuo from Sen 9, you stuff first Keisa and then Yasuo. Here is kind of similar, you want to stuff Keisa first and then Fiora, even if Fiora I feel like is much better than Yasuo. And obviously since Fiora can have a radiant item, it's less of a priority compared to Keisa, who's completely useless if you don't have any items on her. So here in this comp, it's a little bit different from bruisers and strategists, because here you have Fiora and Aatrox and even Keisa, who kind of have a clutch factor in the sense that they can actually do some kind of 1 in 9 moments. And for this reason, almost like healing orbs and of course gifts from the Fallen as always, but gives the Fallen even more broken in this comp. These 2 monks are just too good. They are just too good. You can see Fiora like literally 1v9 if you have these 2 months. And again, What the Forge is overly broken for this comp. If you have Manazane, Deathfire Grasp, Zonia is for Keisa. If you have Dead Defiance, if you have any kind of defensive items, is either on Fiora or Nasus. Like this is just too strong. The next comp that I see performing quite well, but it's a little bit difficult because you cannot force it all the time, is Sorcerers. Obviously, if you have a Sorcerer crest, it's even easier. It's actually one of the best comp if you start with this. Actually, I would recommend you to start, but let's say you don't have it, right? This is more or less the comp you're going to play. The biggest struggle that you will face when you play this comp, especially during early mid game and even late game, it can be a problem, is your front line. One thing for sure is like if, for instance, during early game and mid game, you cannot find Swain 2, you cannot find Tarek 2, you cannot find anything to buy you time, you will have a bad game, you'll finish like the bottom. But if you have an early Swain 2, and that's why this augment is actually broken, because it can help you to have Swain 2. If you have defensive stuff on Swain, Tariq, and obviously later Shen, then you will have a strong early game, a strong mid game, and a strong late game. This is why what I want to say about this comp, having blue buff items for Silco is important, but I do think it's more important during the early game and mid game to have a ratio of 2 defensive items to 1 offensive item, and then after at the late game you stop at 4 defensive items, just like I show here, and then after you build whatever you can on Silco Ari. I think this way you have a much better mid game that allows you to survive enough to be level 8, so you can roll for Silco 2 and potentially Ari, because obviously you won't find Ari at level 7 unless you're lucky. The 3 moments you really want to have, except of course, I mean, I already talked about Sorcerer Crest. Jerry Lotus 3 is overly broken on this comp. You have so much damage that it amplifies all of that, and you can one-shot everyone, even with Silco, who's supposed not to be a burst character, but with this you can burst, honestly. And obviously Overcharge Mana Front gives a lot of power to all your sorcerers. Alright, the next one. This one has many variations, so I'm showing the variation that I think is the strongest. It's also the variation you can play with a Piltover at the early game, or even if you include Piltover a little bit later and you just have a small cash out. But anyway, it doesn't matter because the small cash out is fine. It will give you more items, more gold, whatever. But the idea here is just to play a strong comp that's just naturally strong. That's pretty much it. Without Piltover, this comp is naturally strong. So the way you want to play this comp, you have 2 ways. The first way is you see that you have Robotic Arm as your first zone mode. In that case, I play Jinx. This is just too strong. If you don't have this mode, because you have 1 chance out of 4 to have this mode as your first mode, then in that case, maybe it's something like Shimmer Injector. In that case, you can play Echo Reroll, but I still prefer, if you don't have Robotic Arm, to have a Piltover early game. That way you still ensure you have a strong late game. So this is a comp you want to reroll at level 6, you want to reroll around Jinx and Vi, and then after you can push level 7, so you can reroll for Echo and Jace, or you can, if you feel like you cannot find them, you just push level 8 and you add Emeraldinger, Scion. What I really like about Vi is like she received a lot of buff during the PvE and she is extremely strong. So you have 2 ways to play her, either the Bruiser type, just like I show here with Titan, Therox Gauge, and something that can help her heal a little bit with Redemption, for instance, or you can build full tank, which is nice. One thing I really like about Vi and is she can Sunder. So Sunder is removing the armor of units around her, so this allows Jinx to play without Last Whisper, so she can have a much more offensive build with Runan, i.e. Giant Slayer. So if you want to play this comp, the best augments are Drilling Gunners, kind of obvious. You Have My Bar is insane because when all your gunners have more attack speed, they will all deal a lot of damage. Shimmering Inventors is literally the most broken augment you can have, but it's kind of rare to have it. If you don't have it, something thing I really like to have is long distance pulse. It's the same with sorcerer, I didn't put here, but long distance pulse is really nice when you have synergies like gunner, sorcerer, noxus that have a lot of base stats, and then after you can share with Jinx and Aphelios. Even if Aphelios doesn't have any item, he will still stack all the AD from gunner and he will share this to Jinx. So Jinx will have her own gunner stacks and she will have also 1/4, if I'm correct, of Aphelios stacks. You have so much AD, it's completely broken long distance pulse. Now I want to talk about few comps I think that requires an emblem to be very efficient, and I would suggest not to play these comps if you don't have an emblem, but if you have one, go for it. So one of the first comp is 6 Ionias. Ionia is, I think, overall greatly underestimated. It's not the top 1 comp, like you don't necessarily finish first with this comp, but if you have the Ionia emblem, it's a free top 4, unless you don't hit your unit. That can happen, of course. So the way you want to play it is to stuff Xayah first. A lot of people are sleeping on Xayah, but if you build Xayah with 4 Vanquisher, of course, and you build full AD, she has an incredible amount of burst. Like, it's insane. Sometimes I play Xayah with 3 AD items on her, and she instantly deletes the strongest tank. But obviously, if you position yourself better, you don't put yourself in front of the strongest tank, she will shred and kill like so many units with 1 cast. And then if some units are still low health, Nyla is here to clean up, basically. So the way I really like to play this comp is stuff Xayah first. If you can have RFC, keep the bow for Nyla, but it's not the highest priority. And what I really like also is to have the Event Shroud on Shen. So this is a new item that allows to sunder, removing the armor of units around Shen. And of course, you put Shen in front of Xayah. That way, Xayah doesn't need to have Last Whisper to be extremely strong. It's just like here with the Ionic Spark for sorcerers. You don't want to have a static Silco on Ari. You prefer to have Ionic Spark, so you can deal a lot of damage at the beginning of the game. And here, it's exactly the same. There are 3 broken augments you want to play in this comp, except of course Ionian Crest. The Stolen Vitality is the Vanquisher augment. It allows all your Vanquishers to deal base crit, and that way with Nyla and Xayah, it will make sure that your Shen will last a very long time, so you have a strong front line. Sentinel Spirit is nice since you have so many Ionia, so all of them will have a little bit of shield, a little bit more attack speed, so obviously you will be extremely happy with Nyla, Xayah to have more attack speed. Even Jhin will be happy with this, because honestly, don't underestimate Jhin in this setup, because he can pull off some 3k damage per fight, even with no item. Don't sleep on Jhin as well. He's an excellent unit you can have. He can clean up some units that Nyla and Xayah couldn't clean up. And obviously, last one, Gift from the Fallen, is too broken. What the Forge is really nice as well, because you have a couple of nice items. Even though I feel like you have some items, you kind of sad if you have them. Like, I'm thinking of Deathrider Grass, really not a good item, but if you have like Sniper's Focus on Xayah and Nyla, it's just too strong. Alright, the next comp with the Slayer emblem. So the Slayer emblem, in my opinion, is extremely powerful, but you need to know how to play it, and you have a couple of ways actually. So the way you want to play it is with 5 Demacia, because you already have 2 Slayers in Demacia. It's really easy to achieve 5 Demacia, 6 Slayers. And then after, you want to play with Queen and Rek'Sai reroll. You want to put the emblem on Fiora, who is going to be a nice side carry. So for Queen reroll, you pretty much guaranteed, let's say, to find her, in the sense that she's not really that contested. However, Rek'Sai is extremely contested because of Choba item. So in case that you can't find Rek'Sai, or you don't have the items for Rek'Sai, you can play Mordekaiser as your side carry instead of Rek'Sai. Mordekaiser can be an extremely powerful unit, especially with 6 layers. He will have tons of damage if you stuff him properly. But anyway, one thing for sure is like Queen is extremely reliable, Fiora is extremely reliable, and then after, one of these 2, Mordekaiser or Rek'Sai, or it can even be Aatrox if you high roll Aatrox too. Obviously, the strongest augment you can have is Slayer's Resolve, because you have so many Slayers who are melee, like Mordekaiser, Fiora, Rek'Sai, Aatrox. It will grant them so much defense that they will last much longer in the fight, so you will have a very beefy team. Healing Orbs is also one of the best, because you have some clutch factors like Fiora, Rek'Sai, Aatrox, and even Mordekaiser. So these Healing Orbs is perfect for these units. Okay, next one, Japanese Naafiri. So this comp, I already made a video, and maybe you watched it, maybe not, but I'm going to tell you a little bit how it works. Basically, Naafiri has a passive thanks to her Darkin trait. The passive is like she deals damage whenever she casts her ability, and this can go onto a next unit when she dies. And so when that unit casts an ability, the dogs will still attack the same way. This ability scales with Naafiri's AD, and the Darking Dagger also will work with damage amplification and heal. So meaning that if Samir has BT and she has the Darkin on her, the dogs will heal her by 20% because she has 20% Omnivamp. And that's how the comp works. Can work as well with Cassiopeia, of course, because they both have low mana and they're both Noxus users. So the way you want to play it is with Twisted Fate. If you don't have Pandora's items, don't even try, because you will never have so many swords. You will never have these items. Then after here, it's all about clutching, because you want Samira clutch with Edge of Night and BT. So you want Healing Orbs, a gift from the Fallen. These are the god tier augment for this comp. If you're curious to know a little bit more about how to play this comp, I made a guide on Tacter. Tacter is the sponsor of my channel, but you can access this guide for free with the link in the description, where I explain basically the comp, how to play it from early to mid game and late game, and also how to reroll with augment, a tier list, and so on. So if you're curious about it, you just have to check the link in the description. It will lead you to my profile, and then you can find all the guides I make, and you can obviously find this one. All right, the next comp, since we're talking about Noxus, is more like a basic Noxus comp, where you want to play around Mordekaiser as your main carry, and then after you want to have a secondary carry based on the items. So here I put Fiora, but you have also other alternatives. I'm thinking of Nyla, and I'm also thinking of Silco, who can be a great user, because obviously Silco is such a great unit, and you have Sorcerer with Swain, so it fits the comp quite perfectly. If you play this version, it's actually nice if you have double RFC on Mordekaiser, or just one is enough, because it's kind of hard to have double RFC obviously. But if you have one, you want to have damage amplification such as Jewel Gauntlet, and why not Giant Slayer or things like this. There's nothing much to say about this comp. It's just that you need to have a Noxus Crest quite early, usually at 2-1, and then after you have also Samurai 2, Cassiopeia 2. Basically you have a nice setup during the early game that allows you to snowball with it. You're able to push level 8 quite easily with full stack and a lot of stats on everyone. And finally, the last comp I wanted to show you guys is 4 rogues and how to play them. So 4 rogues is very strong, but it's kind of augment dependent. So one thing you want to make sure is you have one of these augments, Vampiric Blades or Rejuvenating Flame. So this is the Ishtar new augment that allows you to heal everyone. This augment is kind of broken, honestly. So if you have it and you have a good Ishtar for rogues, I'm thinking about ice or stones or wood, but the latter are kind of mad. The strongest I think is ice, or you can have idealism as well, because since we need a lot of hand of justice, this is actually nice. So the way you want to play this comp is to reroll at level 7. As you can see, you have 7 units and you can stay level 7 forever. Your comp is still going to be good, but obviously if you have chances to go level 8 and 9, you go for that. You want to play around Katarina and Echo. You want to reroll at level 7. You want to stuff. I don't think there's a particular order on the unit you want to stuff first. I have preference for Echo, but you know, if you have Katarina 2 and Echo 1 during mid game, just stuff Katarina so you win fights and don't lose fights just because you're stubborn and want to stuff Echo. Another thing I want to say is that Echo is nice with almost every mod you can have. So the 4 mods you can have if you have only one mod is either Shimmer Injector, Adaptive Implant, Virulent Bioware, and Robotic Arm. So Robotic Arm is the one that you don't want to have. Virulent Bioware is not that great. I think it's actually better if you put it in Silco. And the other two, which are Shimmer Injector and Adaptive Implants, are actually nice on Echo. So that's why actually Zone is a nice addition to this comp with Silco. One thing I want to say about this comp, make sure to position properly, especially if you have just, let's say, during mid-game, you just have Echo 3, Katarina 2, and no stuff on Katarina. Make sure to always position Echo in front of the opponent's carry to have a chance to one-shot them and just win the game that way. Okay, now we have talked about the 10 comps that are all viable and extremely strong in this meta. Let's talk about the openers. I'm going to make 3 things, and I think all of them are going to be extremely interesting. The first thing is I'm going to show you the 1 cost unit that you want to keep or not during, let's say, stage 1 and stage 2. The second is the 2 cost, and the third is the 3 cost, especially the 3 cost you get from the orbs you can get during stage 1. So let's talk about it. First of all, the 1 cost. Cassiopeia, it's godlike. Cassiopeia is godlike because even if you don't activate her synergies, she's still an excellent unit that will help you kill targets 1 by 1. So even if you have a bad opener, like you don't have a lot of 2-star units or your items suck, in that case you can still put Cassiopeia, but you will lose your fights by killing at least 1 or 2 units, so you save tons of HP. Cho'Gath, obviously, this unit is just too strong because of Cho'B items, so of course if you have Cho'Gath, keep them. Graves is a little bit difficult. The problem I have with Graves is like he's overly strong as a unit itself. He deals a lot of damage, he tanks a lot, he has utility by slowing the attack speed, but the issue is his synergies aren't that great. Okay, you have Rogue, so if you don't have another Rogue, he's useless. You have Gunner, so if you don't have Jinx, it's kinda useless. Even Gunner isn't, and he has Beachwater, which got completely stomped with the last B patch, so Beachwater is not really playable. That's why I put in B tier. Like if you have a 2-star Graves, you can play him without synergies, but you have to remove it quite soon. Eloy, trash tier, I'll be honest, I hesitate between C and D. Bastion, Beachwater are not great overall, so I put in D. I put in C because it's frontline, you know, like sometimes you have nothing else, but you have to put Eloy, so you have a decent frontline. Aurelia is overall kind of weird spot. I think if you have Samira, if you have some challengers, she's insane. If you have some Ionia start, is insane. So I think I put it A. Overall, it's a good frontline if you can activate at least one of her synergies. Jhin is really good in the sense that he kind of have the same thing with Cassiopeia. He will always kill at least one unit, but the problem is like he's less efficient and also his synergies are overall more difficult to activate properly in the early game. So that's why I think I put in A or B depending on your items. If you have AD items, you can maybe put in A, if not B. Gale is trash tier. There's nothing you can do with this. 3D Masia isn't that strong anymore unless you have luckily Galio 2. Malzahar is B. Obviously, it's a weird champ. It's like, it's not as good as Cassiopeia to kill one target. So that's why I feel like if you lose fight and you have Malzahar on your board, you can still take perfect damage on your face, meaning that you literally take all the damage possible. So that's why I put at B. The only reason I don't put it lower is because you can play with Cho'Gath and that's really nice. Milio I put in B as well. The issue I have with Milio, no, I put in C. You know what? I'll put in C. The problem I have with Milio is like his synergies are not good, or unless you have a good Ishtal, but even with a good Ishtal, it's kind of weird. The problem is like Invoker in general, it's just weak from early game to late game, and because of that, you cannot snowball, make an Invoker early game around Milio because it will lead you to a weird comp that's Invoker, and because of that, the transition is hard, it will be costly, and you will probably lose fights because of that. I put in C. I never play it actually. Orianna, I put in A in the sense that I always keep Orianna in case I can have Piltover, but if I cannot have Piltover, it's not a unit I play, so that's why I don't put in S tier. Poppy, B. I think Poppy is a nice frontline. The only problem is like her synergies are not good, but she has insane base stats because she lost Yordle from Stand 9, so even at the standalone, she's actually nice if you have some good defensive items. Renekton is S. Renekton is an excellent tank early game, and he has 2 insane synergies. Obviously, you have Bruisers, so that goes well with Cho'Gath if you play Cho'Gath reroll. But since you have Cassiopeia, who's also S tier, with these 2 units, you have a great start to have one of the best base for your early game comp. And Samira is still an excellent unit overall. She's extremely powerful if you can activate at least one of her 2 synergies, so kinda similar to Aurelia. If you give me Aurelia 2, Samira 2 at 2-1, I'm extremely happy, to be honest. Really nice unit. So now if we talk about the 2 cost unit, I would put Ashe at B or C. The problem I have with Ashe is like she's a good unit overall. She can deal good amount of damage if you have the stuff for her, but oh my god, it's just like you need to have another carry next to her. You need to have a good front line. Like for instance, you need to have the Ionia Vanquisher frontline with Jhin, Aurelia, Seth, and Ashe. So I feel like she's too situational, and that's why I put in B or C. But overall, she's a good unit. That's where I'm sad. She's a good unit. It's just like the synergies are so hard to play with. Jinx God tier. She's an excellent unit. Even if you don't play Jinx reroll, you have so many ways to transition into something else. She will help you kill so many units in the early game. Galio, I would put not in A. I feel like Galio is more like C. Like for instance, if you compare Galio and Swain, so we're going to put Swain. They're both like kind of magic tank, right? I just put Swain in S tier and Galio in C tier because Swain is so much better at tanking. He has so much better synergies, and Galio is kind of dead. Like Demacia Invoker. Like what do you do with this? While Swain has Sorcerer, Noxus, Strategist, like insane synergies. So that's why by comparison, I cannot put Galio closer to Swain basically. We have Kassadin. Kassadin is an excellent tank, similar to Poppy. He has good stats, he has nice shield, he has great utility with disarm. The only issue is like Bastion is just not a good frontline overall. Like Bastion just get destroyed by anything, honestly. So I don't know, like you get no stats with Bastion, so that's why I put in B. And Void is also nice, but not that nice actually. So Void isn't that strong in the early game to make make you snowball in my opinion. So that's why I put in B. But if you like frontline, if you don't have anything else, it's A, because obviously you need frontline, but I think B is okay. I'm not sure about Kiana. Kiana is, it's nice. If you have Graves, if you have 2-star Graves and you can stuff Graves with some items, Kiana is really nice because it allows you to have Rogue, it brings some utility. Honestly, like Ishtal isn't that great. I feel like most of the time it's a bait. I don't know. So I hesitate between these two. I feel like because it's situational, sometimes she's really good and sometimes she's trash. I put in B. Set A tier, excellent frontline. Juggernaut is a nice synergy. Ionia, it's easy to achieve if you already have Set, but it's not easy to achieve if you don't have Set, you know, kind of like this. So that's why I really like Set. It goes very well with Varvik. Varvik is an excellent unit as well. I think Varvik I can put it S tier. He has 3 synergies and also like as a unit itself, it's a good unit. So I think Varvik is S tier. What do we have? Narfiri S tier. 3 synergies, Challenger and Shurima, which are extremely easy to activate. You have extremely good challengers like Samira and Shurima you need to play like Cassiopeia. And also it has Darking, so it can help you to have even more damage even if she dies. So Narfiri is an S tier you need to play. Talia, I hate it. I hate Talia. She's useless. Sorry for saying it like this. I don't like it. I can put Talia slightly above Twisted Fate because Twisted Fate is useless. Talia at least has Shurima as a synergy and she has a bit of utility because she can bump. Vi is god tier, honestly. She's bruiser, she's Piltover, she has excellent stats, she deals a good amount of damage, she can tank. It's just like, I don't know what they done Vi, but they buffed her many times during PB, but I think the Riot team was on crack when they decided to buff Vi that much. She's just too good. Soraka, same as C, because Soraka is a good unit, but you need so many conditions to make her shine. You need to have like an early Taric, or you need to have an insane Galio 2 double defensive items and you put Soraka behind so your team never dies. But like most of the time you can't play her properly and most of the time she will be useless, so that's why I put C tier. But again, like you have some situation where she's insanely good, she would be S tier, but since it's very situational, I put in C tier. Now let's talk about the 3 cost. So the 3 cost, Darius, I think I put A tier. I don't know how to play. I mean, it's kind of difficult with Darius because it can help you activate 3 Noxus, right? And that's one of the strengths of Darius. It can help you to activate 3 Noxus and you can have potentially Varvik with it, and then after you have an insane frontline. But I feel like he's kind of a useless champion now. He doesn't do much because he lost so much power by acquiring Vanquisher. So I feel like overall it's more like a synergy bot, and when you have a synergy bot at 2-1, it means that you have only 2 or 3 units left which need to be like real units, you know? So that's why I'm hesitating. I think I put at B tier because it's too situational. Like obviously if you don't have Noxus or Juggernaut, you don't play Darius because he will be useless. Then we have Echo, it's god tier. Not only it's a great unit itself, but also it has insane synergies. He has Rogue, Zone, and Piltover. So god tier. Jace for the same reason with Gunner and Piltover. I'm not going to say more. Karma is 99% of the time 3 gold. You don't care about Karma. Even if you have Ionia, she does nothing. She does no damage. She leaves everyone at 50% HP and she dies. So you lose all the fights by killing no units. That's why she's trash. Then Katarina is much better than Darius because like I said, Rogue is a nice synergy. As long as you get Echo or Katarina, it becomes very easy to activate 2 rogues and it becomes very easy to snowball with it. Then you have Misfortune. So the problem I have with Misfortune is like she's still a good unit. She can help you win fights. She can help you snowball if you have the good items, but the problem is like you can't play around her synergies properly. Like the thing I have with Misfortune, like you can play early mid game with Misfortune, you can have a decent game, meaning that you don't lose too much health, you don't win streak though. But if you don't have Silco at level 7 so you can move out of Beachwater, you literally lose the game because there's nothing you can do except that playing Beachwater, but Beachwater is not a synergy in this meta. So that's why for me Misfortune, unless I have no choice, I try not to play around her. So that's why I put between B and C. We'll put it B for now. I think Nautilus is a nice frontline. I really like the fact that you can stuff him and he will be extremely efficient thanks to his passive. He has a nice CC and that can come in clutch. It goes very well with Set or Varvik, who are both A tier. So I really like Nautilus. He will be a nice unit to invest until you find Nasus. So Nico is a little bit difficult because she's a good unit overall. Deals a good amount of damage, has a nice shield, and also can help you activate Ishtar quite easily, but it's also depending on the Ishtar. So I think Nico is a unit you can keep if you are lacking frontline, if you don't have any 2-star frontline, I don't know, like Irelia, Poppy. So I think it's okay. I'm not extremely happy to have a Nico, but I'm not sad either. I think I put in B tier. Queen I put in A tier because when you have Queen, you know for sure you have a lot of damage on your board. You just need to solve the issue of having a good frontline. So I think Queen can help you win many games, many fights in the early game. And then if you have Queen, then Demacia becomes much more interesting because in that way, you don't need to play Poppy, Galio, Kale to have Demacia. You can just play Queen, Kale plus something, Poppy 2 or Galio 2. And in that case, it's much better. Then after we have Rek'Sai, I think I put in S tier. It's one of the units I would keep most of the time. Not only it helps you to have Bruiser and potentially have an insane Cho'Gath start, it can also help you to have Cho'Gath plus Rek'Sai plus Malzahar, so you have a really good Void start. It can go very well with Queen. Let's say you have Queen and Rek'Sai early game. It's insanely good together. So I think Rek'Sai is, contrarily to Darius, who both are kind of synergy fillers because Rek'Sai has 3 synergies. It's just like Rek'Sai overall is just better than Darius, and also the synergies are better than the ones from Darius. Sona is a freaking joke. The only reason I don't put in D tier, I don't know. Honestly, like those two, like they are jokes. Like for me, it's 3 gold. That's it. You sell it. The biggest mistake you can make with Sona is to buy Sona 2 during stage 2. If you do that, you literally lose 9 gold. That's it. You lose 9 gold and you will lose your game because you have 9 gold less than your opponent, so you cannot snowball your economy. So for me, Sona is a bait. You don't want to play around 3 Demacia if you have Sona. Contrary to Queen, Queen is an excellent unit. If you have Sona, Galio, Kair, you will lose most fights. You will lose all the fights, basically, and you won't kill any unit. Taric is an excellent unit I like to have. Sorceress is a great synergy. He's an excellent tank. I think he's better than Nico overall, but yeah, Taric is one of the units I really like to keep. If you have Swain Taric as your frontline, you have an excellent early game. And Vel'Koz, I don't like Vel'Koz that much. Like, I think it doesn't deal much damage. The only moment I like to have Vel'Koz is when I already have something like Taric, or already have something like a 2-star frontline that around Void, so I can play Vel'Koz and I can have 3 Void and do something. But honestly, like, I feel like I prefer to play Malzahar 2 than Vel'Koz 1 99% of the time. And since the multicaster, except Talias who has some utility, all the multicaster are kind of bad. I feel like Vel'Koz isn't that great and it can be a bait. But I put in B tier because if you have the Swain, Taric already, then Vel'Koz becomes good. But if you don't have this, don't play it because you will lose fights. Now let's talk about the legends. So the legends, I don't want to spend too much time about it. I think I just want to show the best legends and I'm going to explain why, and then after for the next legends I'm just going to tell you whether they're good or not. So the best legends right now, we have Ornn. One of them is just like the most broken legend to have. So the reason why everyone is playing Ornn is because like most of his artifacts are just way too good. So this artifact layer tier list I make myself, and I take some data as well to make sure like I'm not making any mistakes. But you have a couple of ones that you want to have almost all the time. Zonia is perfect for Azir, Kai'Sa, and Mordekaiser also. Like this is one of the best components. You can put that also on Silco. It gives the clutch factor to these units where usually they don't have. Like Azir is not a clutch unit, but with the Zonia he can become clutch. Then you have Death Defiance that I love to have on Fiora. It's obviously one of the best items you can give to Fiora. And then after you have Deathfire Grabs, extremely powerful in Sorcerer setup, or Silco is actually nice but not insane. You have Anima Visage, the best of the best item you can have for Cho'Gath. Then Infinity Force is never bad. Manazanate for Sorcerers is insane. On Silco is not that bad. Sniper's Focus has a lot of utility. You can replace a RFC. You can give that to Xayah and she'll deal a lot of damage. You can give that to Kai'Sa. You can give that to Ahri. Like you have so many good users of it. Trickster's Glass is nice, helps you to have 2 Jarvan on the board. Anyone who has a good CC like Jarvan for instance can be an extremely good Trickster's Glass users. Then after you have Eternal Winter, which is nice but not as good. It's still nice, let's be honest. When you face someone who has Eternal Winter you wanna cry. Hull Crusher is god tier if you have a stage 2 one thanks to Augments. It's less good if you have in the late game because the Hull Crusher gives so much stats that at stage 2 it's difficult to kill a unit kid who has Hull Crusher, to be honest. Gold Collector, it doesn't have the... Here we don't have the new artifacts, but we have Gold Collector, Mogul Smile, and like the Gold Monster stuff, I think. These three are around C tier and D tier. They're not that great. So since you don't take much risk and most of the time you always have a good option, Ornn is one of the best augments. Then after, another one I really like to see in the S tier is Earth. So the problem with Earth is like, I think, and I'm the one like this, I'm trying to learn more about Earth, is that we don't exactly know how to play when we don't have the God tier emblems. So the God tier emblems, the ones that are obvious is Bruiser, Sorcerer, Challenger, Demacia, Ionia, Noxus, Piltover, Juggernaut, Slayer. All of these emblems you know how to play thanks to the comp I showed earlier. Then after you have some of them which are more situational, Gunner, Rogue, Shurima. For zone, if you're sure you can have 2 zone emblem, and it's kind of the same for Shurima and Gunner, they are S tier. But if you're not guaranteed to have 2 emblems, let's say B tier because it's situational. And then you have the ones that you don't want to play, Bastion, Vanquisher, Strategist, Void. These ones are just like not good overall, except if you get them at stage 4. Let's say you already have 6 Void and you have this, then yes, it's a good emblem, but most of the time it's not. And the one you want to avoid all the time, Beachwater, Freljord, Invoker, Ishtar, Targon, just don't play that. So this is the reason why I put these 2 at S tier. Ezreal is it's an excellent legend as well, but it's just like Ornn artifacts overall are just way too strong. So that's why Ornn is better than Ezreal. But if they nerf, let's say, most of the broken artifacts, then Ezreal, I think, is going to be better than Ornn. We have Poro, as usual. I think we have a flexible meta. I think we have a lot of extremely powerful augments, and I'm going to show the augments a little bit after. So that's why I really like to have Poro. And then after, I think most of them are more like B tier, but I'm going to say Caitlyn. Some people are forcing Cho'Gath with Caitlyn, so when you can have instantly Vi2, Cho'Gath 2, yes, it helps you to have one of the best Cho'Gath comp. You can have the same way of thinking with Lee Sin, where you can force reroll comps with Cho'Gath. Then we have Twisted Fate in B tier, because if you play Nathiri, which is only good in my opinion if you're below master. If you already master or above, don't force Nathiri. I don't think it's that great. But if you're below master, you can reach master with Nathiri by playing Twisted Fate. And then after, you have Veigar, Vladimir, Mastery, Bard. Like, these are not bad legends. They provide good augments overall, but I feel like you will still be lacking a little bit compared to Ornn and Ezreal most of the time. And then after, you have the ones I think like these are just more like for fun: Tamkench, Pengu, Draven, Orion Soul. So now we talked about legends. I want us to talk about the augments that you always want to pick no matter what at stage 2-1. So basically you have Bruiser. This one is a little bit different. You don't want to pick it if you don't have any Bruiser, of course, but if you have a few Cho'Gath, Renekton and all of that, you want to pick this because you will have an extremely powerful Cho'B item comp later. Same for Sorcerer. If you have an early with Sorcerer, like the Sorcerer Heart gives you Swain. Remember, I put Swain in S tier as opener. So not only you have 4 Sorcerers kinda easily, but also you have your frontline because it gives you a Swain. This is why Sorcerer Heart is way too strong right now, and it's almost an instant pick as long as you don't have, let's say, bad items or you have a couple of Sorcerers left. Same with Gunner. It gives you Jinx, one of S tier opener, helps you to have 4 Gunners quite easily and can help you achieve 6 Gunners later, which is extremely powerful. And the one I really like to pick almost all the time, but there's one condition: you need to make sure you have a strong board to snowball, meaning that you will be like around 100 HP or 98 HP, so you'll be last to pick normally. With this, you are not last to pick, and you make sure you always have the component or the unit you want from the carousel, and this is why it is so strong. Now if we talk about the gold augments, we still see the Bruiser Crest, and it's still one of the best augments for the same reason as the silver. Then after we have Titanic Strength. Again, gives you 2 Bruisers, meaning that it gives you Cho'Gath. Since you have Cho'Gath, it gives you Cho'Gath, it can help you to have Cho'Gath 2, and you can snowball, and then after you play Rek'Sai as a side carry. But you will see, like, if you have this, Vi 3, Renekton 3, and Cho'Gath 3 will deal a good amount of AD damage because they will have so much HP, they will get so much stats from that, and they will deal good amount of damage. Shimmering Inventors, I think I talked about it a bit earlier when I talked about Echo reroll and Jace reroll. It's overly broken. It gives you too much damage. It helps you to have built over. It's just way too good. It was already broken during Sen 9 when Echo and Jace case were not that good, but now that they received buff during PBE, it's just way too strong. And then finally, I told you a lot earlier, gifts from the Fallen. It's almost impossible to make a mistake when you click on that. It's overall way too much stats for your whole team. It helps you win so much during the late game when you have 7-8 units on the board. It's just too much stats. And finally, one I really like on Prismatic is Golden Ticket at 2-1. Helps you to have Shoga 3, but you can also play Jinx reroll, Jace reroll, Echo reroll, like Rogue reroll. You have so many options because you have a strong reroll meta right now. It helps you to have your 3 stars kind of easily, and then after you just read. I showed you multiple times what the Forge is extremely good on many comps. You have so many powerful artifacts that it's almost impossible to have bad items from that, and also all your units received health whenever they equip artifact. It's even better if it's in a map where you have a lot of items, or if you already have an augment that gives you items like Israel or Earth or things like this. So really try to pick it unless you already have your Beast, BIS on your units. Try to pick it. Most of the time it's just broken. Gunner Crown, it helps you to get a Renigns Hurricane, which is Beast on most gunners, and also it gives you a Jace, so you can have easily Piltover start. Even if you don't have this at the start, it helps you have 4 gunners really easily. You can reach 6 gunners later, and you have an excellent item. And finally, the last one, I never picked it because I don't have these options often, or when I have it, I already have my BIS on each unit, so it doesn't work that way. But if you have binary drop at stage 2 or stage 3, this is a must pick because it helps you to have a comp with 3 or 4 carries, and you will still be able to stuff all of them properly thanks to this augment. And the last thing I want to say is that I run a private Discord where I share many secret comps, many secret tips that I find, and I immediately share on Discord to make sure that you guys who are on the private Discord have access to the secret takes before it gets known way too much, or before you can get contested by playing it. This is just an example I gave about the Japanese Nathiri comp that I showed a little bit earlier. I shared it this weekend on people so they can play it, and I shared everything I knew. I also made a guide about it. So if you want to have access to this private Discord, one thing you want to do is to have a tier 2 membership on my YouTube channel. This is a way to help me actually growing this channel, paying the editor who's working on this video, and also provide more and better content. This also helps me to fund my Las Vegas project because I'm going to compete in Las Vegas in December with the best players of the world, and in return I'm doing my best to help you get all the LP and the rank that you deserve by making sure you are aware of the best comps, the best strats, and the best tips before anyone else. Until the next video, happy climbing and see you at the top of the ladder.